The beggar woman who appeared at the gates of Amakam that morning was the most wretched creature anyone had ever seen. Her wrapper was torn and filthy, covered in mud and what looked like old blood. Her hair was matted with dirt and leaves. Her skin was covered in sores that oozed and smelled of death. She walked with a twisted limp, dragging one leg behind her, and her voice was a raspy whisper that made people's skin crawl. "Please," she croaked, reaching out one trembling hand toward the market women setting up their stalls. "Water. Just a little water. I am dying of thirst." The women recoiled in disgust. One of them, Momangozi, a wealthy trader known throughout the region, actually spat on the ground near the beggar's feet. "Get away from here, you disease-ridden creature. You'll bring bad luck to my store. Go. Before I call the young men to chase you away with sticks." The beggar stumbled backward, almost falling. "Please. I mean no harm. Just water. Did you not hear me?" Momangozi picked up a calabash of dirty water used for washing and threw it at the beggar, drenching her completely. "That's your water. Now leave before I do worse." The other market women laughed. The beggar stood there, dripping, her head bowed, and said nothing. She simply turned and limped away, leaving wet footprints in the dust. But what none of them knew, what none of them could see, was that beneath the filthy disguise, the goddess Ola was watching. Listening. Remembering every face. Every word. Every act of cruelty. If you're already feeling the weight of this story, if you can sense something terrible is about to unfold, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel right now. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have helped the beggar or turned her away? Be honest. Now let's see what happens next in the village of Amakam. The beggar moved through the village slowly, stopping at every compound, knocking on every door. At the home of Chief Obi, the wealthiest man in Amakam, she was met by his guards. "Chief Obi," she called out weakly. "I have heard you are a great and generous man. Please, I am hungry. Just a handful of gari. Just a piece of yam. Anything." The chief himself came to the gate, took one look at the beggar, and his face twisted in disgust. "You dare come to my compound looking like that? You will bring disease to my family. Guards, remove this thing from my sight." The guards grabbed the beggar roughly and dragged her away from the compound, throwing her into the dirt road. She hit the ground hard, crying out in pain. "Please," she whispered. "I am a human being. I am someone's mother. Someone's daughter. Please show mercy." "You are nobody," Chief Obi said coldly. "And you will get nothing from me. If you are hungry, go to the forest and eat leaves like the animals. My food is for people of value, not for useless beggars who contribute nothing to society." He turned and walked back into his compound, and his guard slammed the gate shut. The beggar lay in the dirt for a long moment. Then slowly, painfully, she got to her feet and continued walking. At the home of the village priestess, a woman who claimed to speak directly to the gods and ancestors, the beggar hoped to find compassion. Surely a priestess would understand the sacred duty to help those in need. But when the priestess saw the beggar approaching her shrine, she rushed out with a broom and began sweeping the air violently, as if trying to sweep away evil spirits. "Away. Away. You bring contamination to this sacred place. I have cleansed this shrine for tomorrow's ritual, and you dare to bring your filth here. The gods will be angry with me if I allow you to pollute their dwelling. But I thought the gods loved all their children." "The gods love the clean and the righteous," the priestess shouted. "Not diseased beggars who wander around spreading suffering. Go away before I curse you." The beggar bowed her head and turned away. But as she left, she whispered something so quietly that only the wind heard it: "The gods love the merciful. And they remember the cruel." For hours, the beggar went from house to house. From compound to compound. From the wealthy to the comfortable to the struggling. And everywhere, the answer was the same. The young men threw stones at her and laughed when she stumbled. The old women crossed to the other side of the path when they saw her coming. The children ran away screaming that a witch was approaching. Even the dogs barked and growled, sensing their master's rejection. By the time the sun began to set, the beggar had been rejected by every single person in Amakom. Every single person except one. At the very edge of the village, in a compound so small it barely deserved the name, lived a woman named Adana. She was a widow, her husband having died 3 years earlier from a snake bite. She had no children, no family, and no money. She survived by doing small jobs for others, fetching water, grinding pepper, washing clothes, and most days she ate only once, a small portion of gari with whatever vegetables she could find. Her compound was just a tiny mud hut with a leaking roof and a small cooking area outside. She owned 3 wrappers, 2 pots, and a sleeping mat so old it was more hose than fabric. That evening, Adana was sitting outside her hut, stirring a small pot of watery soup made from dried fish scraps and leaves she'd gathered from the forest. It was barely enough for one person, but it was all she had. That's when she saw the beggar limping toward her compound. Adana's first instinct was the same as everyone else's, fear and disgust. The woman looked terrible, smelled worse, and was clearly very sick. But then Adana looked closer and saw something else. She saw exhaustion. She saw pain. She saw a human being who was suffering. "Mama," Adana called out softly. "You look tired. Come and sit. Rest your legs." The beggar stopped, surprised. She looked at Adana with those dark, hollow eyes. You want me to come closer?" "Yes, Mama. Come and sit. I don't have much, but I can share what I have." The beggar limped into the small compound and sank to the ground with a groan of relief. Adana quickly fetched her only cup, filled it with clean water from her precious water pot, and handed it to the beggar. "Drink, Mama. You look like you've been working all day." The beggar drank deeply, and when she finished, tears were running down her dirty cheeks. "You are the first person to call me Mama today. The first person to treat me like a human being." "You are a human being," Adana said simply. "We all are. Suffering doesn't change that." She ladled half of her soup into a bowl and handed it to the beggar with a piece of cassava. "It's not much, but please eat. You need strength." The beggar stared at the food, then at Adana. "But this is all you have. I heard your stomach growling. If you give me half, you will go to bed hungry." Adana smiled. "I have gone to bed hungry many nights, Mama. One more night won't kill me. But you look like you might die if you don't eat. So please, take it." The beggar ate slowly, and with each bite, she watched Adana carefully. When she finished, she spoke quietly. "Why are you kind to me? Everyone else in this village treated me like I was less than an animal. But you, who have the least, gave the most. Why?" Adana thought for a moment. "My grandmother used to tell me something. She said, the way you treat a stranger is the way you treat the gods, because you never know when the gods are watching. I don't know if that's true. But I know that when I look at you, I see my mother, who died begging for water when she was sick and no one would help her. I see myself, if life had been a little bit harder. I see a person who deserves dignity, even if they have nothing else." The beggar was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "May I sleep here tonight? I have nowhere else to go." "Of course, Mama. You can sleep inside my hut. I will sleep outside under the sky." "No," the beggar said. "I won't take your bed. Please, Mama. You are sick and old. I am young and strong. The night air won't hurt me." And so Adana gave the beggar her sleeping mat, her only blanket, and the shelter of her tiny hut. She herself slept outside on the bare ground, using her wrapper as a cover against the cool night air. The beggar lay on the mat, staring up at the leaking roof, and for the first time that day, she smiled. Not the smile of a broken beggar, but the smile of a goddess who had found what she was looking for. In the morning, when Adana woke, she found the beggar sitting outside the hut, looking stronger somehow, less bent and broken. "Good morning, Mama," Adana said cheerfully. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in a very long time," the beggar replied. "Adana, I must tell you something. I am not who you think I am." Before Adana could respond, the beggar stood up. And as she stood, something began to change. The filthy rags fell away like dead leaves. The sores on her skin vanished. The bent back straightened. The matted hair became long and flowing, decorated with cowrie shells and gold beads. The wrinkled face became smooth and ageless, beautiful in a way that was both terrifying and wonderful. The beggar woman was gone. In her place stood Allah, the great goddess of the earth, the mother of all living things, dressed in white cloth that seemed to glow with its own light. Adana fell to her knees immediately, her whole body trembling. "Goddess, forgive me. I didn't know." "Rise, daughter," Allah said gently, and her voice was no longer a whisper but deep and powerful like thunder in the distance. "You have nothing to apologize for. You are the only one in this entire village who passed my test. Test, my goddess. I came to Amakom disguised as the lowest, most rejected creature I could imagine. I went to every home, every person, asking for the smallest kindness. Do you know what I found?" Adana shook her head, still trembling. "I found a village that has become rotten from the inside. Rich with food but poor in spirit. Blessed with prosperity but cursed with pride. Your chief rejected me. Your priestess drove me away from the sacred shrine. Your market women threw dirty water on me and laughed. Young men threw stones. Old women spat. Children screamed. Even those who had little refused to share because they thought I was beneath them. Allah's eyes blazed with divine anger. But you, Adana, you who have nothing gave everything. You shared your last meal. You gave up your bed. You treated me with dignity when everyone else treated me like garbage. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, Adana said simply. My grandmother taught me that we are all connected. Your suffering is my suffering. Your hunger is my hunger. I couldn't eat my small portion while watching someone starve, no matter who they were. The goddess smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through storm clouds. That is true wisdom, daughter. And now you will see what happens when a village forgets wisdom. Allah raised her hands toward the sky, and her voice rang out across Amakom like a bell that could not be ignored. People of Amakom, come out of your houses. Come and see the beggar you rejected. Come and face the goddess you insulted. All across the village, people heard that voice and felt their bodies move against their will. They walked out of their compounds, out of their homes, and gathered in the village square. Chief Obi came. Moman Gozi came. The priestess came. Everyone who had rejected the beggar came, their faces pale with fear because they all suddenly understood what they had done. When they were all assembled, Allah stood before them, radiant and terrible. Yesterday, I walked among you asking for mercy, and you showed me none. I asked for water, and you threw filth. I asked for food, and you told me to eat leaves like an animal. I asked for shelter, and you chased me away with sticks and curses. Chief Obi fell to his knees. Great goddess, we didn't know it was you. If we had known. If you had known, you would have treated me well, Allah interrupted, her voice cutting like a knife. But that is exactly the problem. You only show kindness when you think someone is important. When you think someone has value. When you think there's something to gain. That is not mercy. That is calculation. She pointed at Adana, who stood quietly at the edge of the crowd. This woman knew nothing about who I was. She thought I was exactly what I appeared to be, a dying beggar with nothing to offer. And still, she shared her last meal. Still, she gave up her bed. Still, she treated me with dignity. That is true mercy. If you're feeling the power of this moment, if this story is teaching you something, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear this lesson. Drop a comment and tell me what you think should happen to the village now. Let's continue. Moman Gozi pushed forward, her voice desperate. Please, goddess. We will change. We will be better. Give us another chance. You had your chance, Allah said coldly. Every moment of yesterday was a chance. Every time I stood at a door, that was a chance. You chose pride. You chose cruelty. Now you will understand the consequences. She raised her arms again, and the earth beneath Amakom began to tremble. For 1 full year, this village will know poverty. Your farms will produce half of what they once did. Your businesses will struggle. Your wealth will shrink. And every day, you will remember the beggar you rejected. Every day, you will understand what it means to have little and need much. The people began to wail and beg, but Ola was not finished. Your chief who said I was nobody will lose his position. Your priestess who drove me from the shrine will lose her gift of sight. Your market women who laughed will find their goods rotting before they can sell them. And all of you will learn humility, whether you want to or not. Then she turned to Adana, and her expression softened completely. But you, daughter of mercy, you will be blessed. From this day forward, you will never lack anything you truly need. Your small farm will produce more than farms 10 times its size. People will seek you out for wisdom. You will become respected throughout this region, not because of wealth or position, but because of the content of your heart. She placed her hand on Adana's head. And one day, when you are old and it is time to leave this world, you will come directly to me. You will not wander. You will not suffer. You will be welcomed into the realm of the ancestors with honor, because you passed the greatest test. You remained human when others became monsters. Tears streamed down Adana's face. Thank you, my goddess. But please, the village, many of them have children who are innocent. Will the children suffer too? Even now, even receiving blessings, Adana thought of others. Ola's smile was full of both sadness and pride. The children will learn from their parents' mistakes. That is not suffering, daughter. That is education. But because you asked, because even now you show mercy, I will make the punishment 1 year instead of 7. Let it not be said that Ola is without compassion. Then the goddess began to fade, her form becoming transparent, returning to the earth from which she came. Remember this day, people of Amakom. Remember the beggar you rejected. And remember the woman who had nothing but gave everything. Let this story be told to your children and your children's children, so they never forget. The true measure of a person is not what they do when someone is watching, but what they do when they think no one will ever know. She vanished completely, leaving only the scent of rain and fertile soil behind. The village stood in shocked silence. Then, slowly, people began to move. Some went to Adana to apologize, to thank her for asking mercy for them. Others went home in shame, understanding fully what they had become. Chief Obi approached Adana, his proud shoulders now bent with humiliation. I was wrong. I thought wealth made me important. I thought position made me better than others. Thank you for showing me what true value looks like. Adana helped him to his feet. We all forget sometimes, Chief. The goddess gave us a chance to remember. And so the village of Amakom learned its lesson. The year of struggle came as promised, and it was hard. But it was not cruel. People learned to share. They learned to help one another. They learned that wealth means nothing if your spirit is poor. Adana's tiny compound did indeed prosper. Her small farm produced more yams than farms 3 times its size. People came from distant villages to seek her advice, and she welcomed everyone, rich and poor alike, with the same gentle kindness. Years later, when traveling storytellers passed through the region, they would always stop in Amakom to hear the tale of the beggar goddess and the widow who passed the test. And they would carry that story to other villages, other regions, other lands. The story became a proverb: treat every stranger as if they were a god in disguise, because one day, they might be. And in every generation, mothers would tell their children about Adana, the woman who had nothing but gave everything, and about the village that learned the hard way that true wealth is not measured in gold or land, but in the size of your heart and the kindness of your actions. If this story touched your soul, if it reminded you to be kind even when no one is watching, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel right now. Share this video with everyone you know. Drop a comment and tell me, will you treat the next stranger you meet with more kindness after hearing this story? Thank you for watching.